guys, I thought I would bring you into my germination chamber and give you a quick update on how we're doing. So today is March 23rd, Thursday, March 23rd. These tomatoes were planted on Thursday, March 16th. So this is 1 week, and you can see, I'm going to try to do this without dropping anything. We have amazing germination. Hey homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm. I am in the greenhouse today and I'm potting up some tomatoes that I started from seed. And I thought I would bring you along and show you how that process is done. Let's see what we're up to. So right now I am working on a whole bunch of tomatoes that I've started from seed, and I have a different video that I've showed you that in. And this is the process of potting them up. So these seedlings have been in my germination chamber for, let's see, I started these on the 16th of March. Today is the 30th of March. So these are about 2 weeks old. I have really good germination rate. They came right up, partly because that germination chamber is 75 to 80 degrees, which is what tomatoes love. And at this point, I've taken them out to the greenhouse during the day and let them get some full sunlight to harden them off a little bit, and then put them back in the germination chamber at night. And so now I'm in the process of actually potting them into bigger pots. So this whole tray looked like the stuff in the back. So I had 12 rows total of tomatoes. In some cases, I only had 3 on one side and 3 on the other. And in other cases, I did 6 across for each row. This particular variety that we're working on right now is Brandywine. And I have a lot of those because it's a popular variety. You can see how this plant has its first true leaves, and it's starting on its second set of true leaves, which is when you want to start transplanting these up. It's been seasonally cold, and so that has put a damper on things. So it's currently about 70 degrees in here. And I'm keeping track of seedlings I'm going to sell and seedlings I'm going to keep. So this is a keep flat. And I tend to keep the very largest ones for my own farm because I'm growing them for production farming later. And so if they have a little bit of a head start, that's not a bad thing for me. And then all the extras get sold. And you can see here, I have 2 that have come up in the same hole. I did get very good germination, 90 to 95% germination rate on these. I'll put a list, I'm keeping track. One of them is a little smaller because this one came up first. And so this guy is tiny. I could just pluck him out and toss him, but once he's separated from his sister here, he is gonna take right off. And so notice I'm looking to see where this is coming from. So I don't want it to be crossed. If I'm going to pull these apart, I need to pull them apart in the direction that they're not growing across each other. And because this soil is nice and light and friable, that is going to just come right out. And tomatoes, you can plant them deeper than they were before. The stems will sometimes root, and you'll get additional roots. Honestly, there's a whole mythology around people planting tomatoes really deep, taking off lower leaves, sticking them way in the ground so they have a bigger root system. I have dug up tomatoes in the fall that I've done that with, and I have never seen additional roots along the stem. And I know they do it, and I know you can easily root one in water, so I know it's a thing. But I honestly, I plant them deep just to give them support if they need it, but I'm not actually thinking that I'm seeing a dramatic increase in my production or the health of that plant from doing that. For whatever reason, in my particular soil conditions, I live in the West. Everywhere I've tried it has been in the Western US. I've never seen roots actually coming from the stem. I think it tends to be something that happens more with a lot more humidity. And we don't have humid conditions, even with regular watering. So again, 2 of them here, very nice sized, both of them. I'm very gently teasing them apart. And if I'm trying to make sure I don't rip the stems, I'm trying to get those roots apart as gently as possible. Some of them are going to tear that's just the nature of this. And they will look sad for a day or so, and then they're going to recover. Unfortunately, we've had a colder than normal spring, and so I'm running out of room. I can't keep all of these in my germination chamber anymore. There's just way too many once I get them potted up, and so I'm going to have to keep them in here. I have enough heat mats for 5 trays total, and so these guys I'm not as worried about because they're going to have a little extra heat. But what I'm going to do is at night I will put their covers back on to give them a little bit of extra heat. And those covers kind of nicely fit around the top of these 3-inch pots just to protect them and give them a slightly more heat in the evenings. And then if it gets quite cold, I can put a small heater in here and turn that on. I can also use cloth to put over the tops of things. And if it's really like right on the edge, we tend to be about 5 degrees colder than what the predicted weather is. And then this greenhouse is about 5 degrees warmer than outside. And I know that from this min-max thermometer where I can actually keep track of the temperature in the previous evening. So I know it doesn't run that hot in here. If the predicted temperature is something like 33, it's probably going to be 33 in here, given the 5 degrees colder plus the 5 degree bump. And I may just haul all of these into the garage for the night if that's the case, because it would be absolutely devastating to lose these many seedlings. I've got 18 in each of these flats, and I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 flats, and I probably got another 3 or 4 to go here. So that would be a huge blow to lose all of those tomatoes. So that's what I'm up to. I'm going to put you guys on time lapse and show you just for fun and as I work so that you can see what this process looks like. I put them all in pots and then I water them in all at once, and they're going to look sad for a little bit. So these guys just got transplanted this morning. You can see they're a little floppy. They've got a little transplant shock versus these guys that were planted yesterday. And they were out here overnight with a cover, and they're perking up and looking good at this point. So you're going to get a little bit of transplant shock just because their roots have been massively disturbed by the process of moving them. That's not unusual. And then my soil, I make my own seed starting mix, but it's way too much to actually make enough soil to pot all of these up. I would be killing myself physically to do that. And so I actually buy a tote of good potting soil every year to pot everything up with. This does have some fertilizer in it. It's organic, but it has fertilizer in it so that I don't have to worry about these guys not having enough to eat as they start to grow. And I will start selling these little guys about the 1st of May. So they've got another month or so in these pots. And a lot of times they will just kind of sit in the current holding pattern because the temperature is cooler in here until we start getting some warmer days, and then they take off like gangbusters. So I'm okay with that, given the fact that I'm balancing how much room I have and how many lights I have in my germination chamber. So that's what we're doing right now.
Caught behind Venetian blinds, out of reach for the city lights. This ain't where I belong. Hey, look at me, man, what I've become. I've been running east, looking for sunset.
All right, you guys, last ones. This is always a big milestone. I have 5 Virginia Sweets and 4 of the Dr. Wychees. And I'm using trays without drainage on these. because as they grow, I really like to bottom water. I have found that as they get big and the days get warmer in the greenhouse, they can really quickly dry out. And having that bottom water, one, it helps with damping off, but two, you can put a lot more water in there when they're bottom watered than you can if you're just watering from the top, and so they tend to stay a lot more watered, which is important. So there's all the Virginia sweets. And I have at least this many, if not more, peppers to pot up, but they're not quite ready yet. I could probably do them, but I also have about 20 other things I need to do, and so I'm not gonna work on those today. They can wait a few more days. All right, so here we go. Greenhouse is finally warmed up a little bit. We're getting a little sunshine. We've had a lot of gray overcast lately, which means it's been pretty cool in here. And I started a lot of brassicas. Let's see. I did not write it down. Probably on the 18th of March, and it's now the 30th of March, and they are just barely starting to come up, but I did not put them in any kind of heated area. I just left them in here because they're cool season crops, and it was too cold. And so normally those brassicas will come up, and by brassicas I mean cabbage, broccoli, kale, sprouting broccoli. There we go. Yeah, normally those will come up within 3 or 4 days if the temperature is right. And it just clearly was too cold because they have been giving me the finger for a week and a half. So I will reuse the potting soil that was extra from this. It's good seed starting soil. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not having any disease issues. And I am loath to throw that out because I took a lot of time to make that. And so I will just reuse that for bigger starts. I like having some plantings out here outside my greenhouse, specifically for this purpose, so I have a place to run a little bit of wastewater when I'm rinsing out trays and things. I also tend to throw mulchy type things in here, so, stems and random other things. It's always fun to have things around your greenhouse. These are Bootstrap Farmer trays. I have a love-hate relationship with them. They're expensive, they last forever, they're very, very sturdy, and so they're really nice when you need to pick up a tray of plants. However, they are just slightly off in terms of size from a standard greenhouse 10-20 tray, which means that if you're putting something like these 3-inch pots in them, they tend to be a little bit wonkety. They don't quite fit down in there perfectly the way they should, and it is really annoying. So I wish that when they had designed these, they had made them just slightly bigger. So these are all my transplants from today. I've watered everything in. I'm going through and just making sure that things aren't trapped. Sometimes you water and dirt will get on a leaf and it will hold the leaf down and they'll kind of be stuck in that folded over position. I like to make sure that that isn't the case. These are a little bit sad. They're reacting to being transplanted, the temperature of the water, the temperature of the soil, and now full sunlight. So it's a lot. It's a lot for these little guys to process, but they're going to be okay. So these 3 trays, this tray, this tray, this tray, all today. Oh, and this one, so 4 all today, plus these extras over here, versus the rest of these that I did yesterday, and they are much more perky and looking good. So I'm pretty happy about that. Ultimately, all of my tomatoes go across my top shelf back here. Heat rises, and so it's a little bit warmer up there, and so as they start getting a little bigger, that's where they live. But for now, I want to be able to move these quickly if I need to put them in the garage to protect them from an overnight freeze. And I also want to be able to quickly throw a blanket over these. And so I'm just going to go ahead and leave them on this lower shelf for the moment until we're ready. So yeah, let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, almost 11 trays, and each one has 18. So we're talking about 200 some odd plants so far of tomatoes, and I have at least that many in peppers coming. So yeah, the sprouting season is off to a good start.